And welcome everybody to the Four Tales podcast. I am your host, Kyrun Silva, along with my spectacularly bald host, or co-host, I should say. Yeah, you're looking good with your... I tried to match you. I cut my hair, so I was trying to match you.
Finally got a haircut, man. I was gonna say that, man. Thank you for getting a haircut. See, now our viewership is gonna go up.
Ladies love that nice haircut, right? Now, I watched that last episode with Michael Watson, who is killing it on his Hot Shot campaign, and I realized my hair was crazy looking. I looked like a Mr. Glass from the Unbreakable series. And I was like, all right, I got to do something. So I asked my barber, who's been my barber for 15 years now, and I said, cut me up, and she did a good job. So,
is she the one who gave you the rat tail? Did she?
No, man, no.
That's something. That was somebody that was previous.
That was my mom's, all right. That was my mom's. Okay. For anybody that's asking, I showed Danny and our guest today a video from me from 1991 with my mini afro, flat top, whatever you want to call it, mushroom. I don't know what it was called back then, and my rat tail that went all the way down to my butt. And it's cringy, but it's cute and it's part of my life, and I loved it. You know, I had that thing. I sported that every day from elementary school all the way through up to high school. When I realized I was going to get bullied and picked on, so I said, "Mom, cut it," and I cut it. And I haven't thought about it since.
Till today,
yeah. But we're not here. Man. You want me to bring the rat tail back?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only place that I can actually grow hairs, back here in the back.
Oh, okay.
So if you do it, I'll do it.
You gonna pay me?
No, not doing that.
Okay, then no. We're not bringing that back at all. Unless I'm getting paid, I'm not bringing that thing back. You know how many? That's. No, I'm not gonna go into that. That's a whole nother podcast. That's not what we're here for. What we are here for are comic books, indie comic books, and self-publishing comic books. Which I think now that's what I'm gonna start calling myself and people in our level, self-publishers. I'm not gonna call myself indie anymore. Because I realized, maybe indie should just be for anybody that's not Marvel, but's going through Diamond, IDW, Dark Horse, and even people like Second Sight Publishing who are now going through Diamond. But people like myself and you, Danny, I think we should start just calling ourselves self-publishers. And that will break that barrier that people are trying to get confused on what's indie and what's not anymore. I don't know, maybe just me. I was just thinking about that the other day.
I like it.
All right. But before we get too far into things with our amazing guest today, we do have some poll results from last week. Danny created a great poll if you're watching the Loki series on Disney Plus. He had a question: is this version of Loki, the Tom Hiddleston, is that how you say his name?
Hiddleston, right?
Yeah. Is this version of Loki going to survive the entire series or the entire season? We had a poll result of 62% of people saying yes, 37% saying no. So, there's some people out there that maybe agree with you that he might not last the entire season. Yeah, which I'm all right with that. As long as they keep bringing a Loki, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think this new Loki, spoiler alerts for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I think this new variant, this Enchantress, I think it's, they're trying to, meld Loki and Enchantress for this character. And I think she's going to be taken over. And I think Loki's going to die, or I think Loki's going to really die. We've seen Loki die several times now. So Loki's
finally he's going to actually die.
Right. I think he's going to actually die, or the Loki that we're most familiar with. And, Enchantress is going to take over.
Right. I just want to see Marvel go full Norse mythology and have him turn into a horse, and then he has a baby.
No,
I want to see that. Honestly.
No, we're not going to go that far. Disney's not going to do that.
Doesn't Disney own Animal Kingdom, Animal Planet, something like that?
National Geographic.
Discovery Channel? National Geographic. Okay, there you go. It's all part of the world. It's all national. It's all geographic. No. Am I going too far on that?
Too far. Not enough national, too much graphic.
That's That's good. That was really good. All right. All right. Well, all right. Since I've gone too far again with my description on things, let's go ahead and talk about our guest. But actually, before we do, because I have a better segue in this. What comics did you read this week?
So I actually read On the Toilet by
On the Toilet. There you go.
I started reading this Monarchs comic, Zoom and Boom. I found this guy on TikTok. He's really great. The art in it is really great. It's more got like a manga style, as you can see. But you do read it front to back. It's like a fighters tournament, and it starts off pretty good. I didn't get all the way through it yet, but I definitely gonna finish it. And I got Sebastian Jones's Ruining Christmas book somewhere. I thought I had it over here, but that Ruining Christmas book came in that he did on Kickstarter in December, and it's really naughty. It's one of those naughty books, but it was pretty
actually naughty or just graphic naughty.
Like more naughty than I would like to show my kids. So but it was entertaining. It was entertaining. It was a short little preview, but it was worth the read.
Okay.
What about you?
I was actually very heavy in my reading this week. And I'm going to bring up a book that I was going to mention last week when we didn't get to record because of circumstances, which I'm not going to go into. But it's a little bit of old school and a little bit of new school. So I'm going to go in order from timeline wise. So first thing I read was Xman Days of Future Past, which was actually something it's been on my read list for a while. I got the trade, I guess you can say, which even though the actual Days of Future Past was only 2 or 3 issues, this trade is like 6 issues worth of story, and I have no idea why they added the extra 4 issues in here, but really good. I then read, and I said this is a heavy book for me, a heavy week for me. I read Creech, which is a Greg Capullo's self-independent book from the 90s. Story about this scientist who is reanimating soldiers and turning them into super soldiers. Really sci-fi stuff. Then I read Ash, which is from Joe Quesada, also a 90s book, about a firefighter who gets superpowers. Made no sense, but it was totally cool. The story was like, okay, he's burnt up and he gets superpowers. Don't know why, but he got superpowers because he got burnt up.
From the flames.
Yeah, it was supernatural. Maybe I need to read more than issue 1, but it was totally 90s. Joe Quesada's artwork is amazing and really cool. And then the last thing I read,
you superpowers? You didn't know that?
No, I'm not going to try that either, which we don't recommend on this podcast, to try to burn yourself for superpowers, get bitten by radioactive spiders, anything like that, have your parents killed in an alleyway, nothing. And the last thing I read was self-publisher Evan Bergoon's Tiny Wizards, which is about a group of literally tiny wizards from another dimension that come to our dimension and take over a fast food restaurant. Okay. It's a crazy read. It was fun though. Evan Bergoon is a local creator from Sacramento, which I don't know why. There are a lot of great creators in Sacramento. We have a lot of artistic people here.
There's a couple of them that are decent.
Oh, do not disrespect Ron Lim like that, okay? I love the Lim family. I've had lunch with them before. Don't disrespect them. Or Sam Keith, local Sacramento creator Sam Keith of the Max. Don't be disrespecting him. Or Robert Love, who is going to be on our show from in October.
Oh, I see. So this is just a Sacramento comic creator show now. I get it. All right. No, I didn't understand that starting, but I get it.
It is. And that's going to lead us to our guest today. Another Sacramento creator, or as he likes to be called, a Sacramento comiker. He is a comiker of almost 15 years of experience making comic books and webcomics. He's the artist and co-creator of the webcomic Eben 07. He's the artist, writer, and co-creator of Eben 07. He's an artist, writer, and creator of the amazing Long John webcomic, which is one of my favorite books right now. He is the co-creator of the upcoming book Yak Force from Taurus Comics. He is the co-host of a podcast for all intents and purposes. He is a sidekick for the yearly podcast Con Artist. He is Dan Bethel.
Dan Bethel, ladies and gentlemen. Is there anything you don't do, sir?
Sleep. But
not to mention, he's also a college professor throughout all this, and a dog lover. I know. I found a lot about this guy.
I own a dog. I don't know. I don't want to use like weird language here. I love my dog, but dog lover. I want to.
Okay.
Yeah. But I got a little worried. You said you had a lot of heavy reading this week, and knowing that you guys, when you talk about what you're reading this week, you talk about what you read on the toilet. I didn't know where you're going to go with heavy reading. So I'm glad it was just a lot of comic books and not something else.
Put more fiber in your diet.
There we go. Be more regular.
I can't. It's the diet I have. I'm trying to lose weight. It says don't eat as much fiber. So
there you go. Anyway, so yeah, it's great to be here.
Thanks for having us on, or thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you could make it. And so I got some questions for you.
Oh God. All right, what's your question?
So what are we doing?
We're talking about you and your book Long John, which, like I said, Long John I've been reading for 6 years now. Right, it's been 6 years. I started reading issue 1, and it's one of my favorite books, and I say that wholeheartedly. And it's a Western about a cowboy who wakes up in the middle of the desert and has everything taken from him outside of his long johns, his underwears. Right. And he has to go out and figure out what happened to him and his group. And it's an amazing book. I feel like it. And I don't read Westerns normally. I'm not a huge Western fan. I'm not a Western fan at all, honestly. But from the moment I read your book, I was like, this is dope. The combination of the storytelling along with the animation style artwork that you have is such a great combination, and I just thoroughly enjoy it.
Well, thank you so much. I do say that it's a Western in setting only, because don't tell anybody, I'm not like a huge Western fan. It's just that
what?
Well, the thing is, like, I'm not like a huge fan of Westerns. I like Westerns, specifically a certain strain of them. I like the Clint Eastwood, like spaghetti Western style, everything from Fistful of Dollars. And even though he wasn't involved, but things like Django Unchained, I love that movie. I saw it 3 times in the theater.
It was amazing. It was great.
But I love also.
Who's your favorite character though? That's yeah. Your character was Leonardo DiCaprio. We're gonna have some issues here.
I like Candy though. I like Candy.
His performance was amazing. I'll give you that. But I also, but the Westerns I like are kind of the ones that are a little weird. I like, of the Clint Eastwood oeuvre, there's High Plains Drifter, which is like this weird kind of almost ghost story that actually was filmed in the place where my comic takes place. But also, like, there's the Johnny Depp movie Dead Man, which is super weird. That's really, really good. And I like this almost like the slow burn Westerns of like the assassination of Jesse James, and like the stuff that we really get a sense of the scale and scope that really creates more of a mood than anything, and less about specific plot lines. I like the tone. And honestly, I kind of came through to Westerns through 2 different directions. I was a big fan of like the Akira Kurosawa samurai films. Mm-hmm. Like Yojimbo is my favorite movie of all time, but also the modern Western, which I would argue are actually post-apocalyptic movies like Mad Max and stuff like that. Realizing that those all come from the same source of this genre called Westerns, and realizing that California has a rich sort of history of the Old West, got me interested in the genre that I wasn't really exposed to a whole lot when I was a kid. So I kind of came to Westerns in a roundabout way. I say that Long John isn't a Western so much as it's just the story that takes place in the Old West. And like you said, Kyrun, it's like, I get a lot of comments from people saying, I don't like Westerns, but I like the story. I'm like, well, it's because I'm not trying to not trying to fit a mold. I'm just telling the story of this character that just happens to take place at this time, at this place.
I like that. Fun fact, I just learned today that Jimbo was remade into A Fistful of Dollars, apparently.
Yep. And also remade
stuff.
again into the Bruce Willis movie. Oh goodness, now I forgot it.
Die Hard? Die Hard
No, yep, it was Die Hard. No. It was like he was like a gangster movie. Oh gosh,
I think I know what you're going to do.
I can look it up. Give me a second. This is important.
It's important. We have to find this information.
I think I've seen that one too. Actually, hold on.
Everybody's checking furiously.
Last Man Standing.
Yep, that's exactly right. Rycooter soundtrack, super good. But yeah,
fun fact. Also, it's been turned into Fast and Furious 10. You just haven't known that yet.
Right. At this point, they're just remaking old movies.
Fast and Furious 11 is just family goes to westerns.
They got to race wagons. They go back in time and race wagons,
flipping wagons over head over foot. And the wagon's in space now, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to see it though, so it doesn't. I don't care.
Fair enough.
That is one film franchise that has just jumped the shark like multiple times.
Keep jumping it. I see that's surprising to me to hear because Kyrun, like Kyrun said, he's been reading Long John for 6 years, but I just got into it probably 6 days ago. And I really love the introduction. I love the main character waking up in the middle of nowhere, and then as the reader, I have to figure out what's going on with him. Right. So I think that's great. And as a fan of westerns, me and my wife, we watch westerns all the time. I was just watching The Rifleman today.
Nice.
I just love western stories and how the underdog has to fight against the elements or the the establishment or the incoming establishment.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to it. This is one that I will ask Kyrun not to spoil for me. Because I'm super interested in reading it.
Well, that's actually spoiler. You are.
Yeah.
Now you spoil stuff too, Kyrun. I get the label, but you're just as bad as I am.
Okay.
Right. Well, to hear that you specifically don't want to be spoiled is quite an honor. So I hope you enjoy the ride.
Just so everybody dies at the end.
That's true.
Of course.
All right. The very next page that you're going to read, it's when everybody dies.
Like, what page are you on? 7? Yeah, 8. Everybody dies.
Then it becomes a sci-fi. It's going to be real wild.
Well, okay. Let's talk about endings then, because I during my research, and it was hard to find information on you that I didn't already know. But I found a lot of other podcasts and shows that you've been on where you have said that you have in your mind about 150 pages worth of story for your book.
Right.
But then you also mentioned another place that you think you're going to bring this out to about 6 or 7 books altogether, right, which was another podcast. So what is it? Is this going to be a finite series? Is this an ongoing series? What exactly is going on with Long John?
It is a finite book. It's a single story that I'm telling.
Okay.
Excuse me. And and I'm sticking to 150 pages. So book 7 is only going to be about 3 or 4 pages. No, no, it's the thing is with the way I write is that the pages can fluctuate, but it's working out to basically be about 30 to 35 pages a book. So in the math there, it's going to be about 60 more pages after book 5 is done. So, but it is a finite work. I do, if I want to come back to it, depending on kind of how well it does or whatever, or if I feel the need to come back, I do have a sequel in mind, kind of a sequel. But we could maybe talk about that later if you want. But it's not really
furious.
Yeah, yep. Again, flipping horses end over end, jumping off of cliffs and grabbing helicopters. It's going to be wild.
Okay.
But yeah, because I want to. When I got into making comics, our first comic, Ebon 07, was an ongoing story. Although we did have, if we wanted to end it further down the line, we had kind of an end game idea, but we never got that far. But this one, I know I want to tell a bunch of different stories, and so I'm like, I don't really have an idea for an ongoing series. Really, I just want to, especially considering I make comics so slowly.
You are pretty slow. Yeah.
Thank you. But I realize I need to come up with stories that have beginnings, middles, and ends, and not overcommit myself. or else I'm never going to get anything else done. Right.
No, you started Long John as a webcomic, along with Evan 07 was also a webcomic. Is that something that you just feel more comfortable with in that format? Or is that just more easier for you to use instead of just printing everything out?
Right. Yeah, I'm still a webcomic mostly because of habit at this point. We made Evan 07 specifically to be a webcomic. And in terms of even page formatting, we weren't formatting for print at all. So when we did our first book, it was a problem. But mostly just cutting and pasting panels and moving stuff around. It was a mess.
Yeah,
but
I did that with Shaman's Destiny on Webtoons. And I was trying to convert that. And initially I was stupid. I was like, I'm just going to put page one onto here. No, it doesn't work like that. And so formatting it from a webcomic to a comic is a whole art on its own.
Right.
Yeah,
and once we
tried it with Ace Blade and I quit 4 pages in. So
yeah, it's no fun. It's no fun cutting up pages and moving stuff around. But I'm actually glad you brought up Webtoons, because even though technically I'm still a webcomic first, pretty much all the pages go up onto the website, as well as go into book form. But I admit that I am actually I'm doing an old form of webcomics, a form that kind of died out in 2015, 2016. So back in the early days of webcomics in the 2000s and early 2010s, webcomics were an ad-based, website-based kind of format. So you have your website and you got your Google ads or whatever on the sides, and you made money by people staying on your website. Click to the next page.
Wait, I'm sorry. People make money off of comics?
Webcomics for a while. Yeah, people were making good money off of webcomics. But around 2014, 2015, the model changed because browsers came installed with ad blockers, and so they couldn't make money. And so the modern webcomic model is like the Webtoons model, where you make revenue, you're sharing revenue with the host, like Webtoons or whatever, or you're doing Patreon, or you're doing Kickstarter. And I haven't made that transition because I know I can't commit because of my day job. Basically, I know I put stuff out slowly and I work slowly. So I'm like, I'm not going to try to commit to a monthly Patreon or something like that, because I can't guarantee if I got 150 papers I need to grade these next 2 weeks, I can't put anything up on Patreon. So it's a webcomic in name only. I am writing and drawing for print. It's just I keep that website out of nostalgia, and because I like being a webcomic as well. So it's a webcomic in the sense that I put stuff on the web, but I'm not really following a specific modern business model at all.
I think it's a good idea. I started reading on the website, and but I prefer print. I clearly prefer print comics, having them in my hand. So as a matter of fact, I'm gonna order the rest of the books right now. As a matter of fact,
do it now. Do it. Just do it. Okay. Well, while he's doing that, let me ask you something, because you were mentioning that you're going to have possibly sequels.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing a prequel? And Danny, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but a prequel involving all the other Johns, Juan John, Johnny Mono, along with Long John, and just see where they started to where we found them at the end.
You're right. It's funny because like the original story idea I had was the story I'm telling, where it's we wake up and we just hear about the kind of cool guys they were. And then I'm like, this might be too hard. And so I was thinking, what if I just do like a episodic stories based around the Johns?
That just sounds bad.
and I mean, it could be more, it's more just action adventure kind of goofy stuff. But then I'm like, that's not the kind of comic I want to make. And so I probably wouldn't, if I were to do something like that, maybe I would fund an anthology where I'd maybe bring on different artists to illustrate those types of stories. But I'm
willing to do a Johnny Mono.
I can't think of anybody off the top of my head really right now to ask. But I don't think I would, just because it is or if I did, like I said, it'd just be a one-off thing. But yeah, those, like you said, those stories aren't, that's where you fall into more traditional Western mold. And like, that's not those have been better. That has been done differently and better in multiple ways. And so I'm like, I just want to keep moving forward and find, like I said, if I do come back with like a sequel or something like that, I want it to be another kind of off-kilter, different style of Western, kind of like what I'm trying to do with Long John.
No,
I'll keep you in mind if I do that anthology. And Danny too.
I am not holding my breath on that now.
Fair.
Now, along with Long John, the story also involves another character who I thoroughly enjoy, Hellrider Jackie. She has this creepy vibe to her. When you see her, she's wearing a skull or just wearing all black. Where did she come up? Yeah, she's just dark and just scary. But where did she come up? And when you decided I'm gonna make this story, but involving her, like how did she come about? Without spoiling anything.
Oh no. She a version of her has existed since high school for me. When a friend of mine, and this is going to sound real weird, but okay, so Jack in the Box, right? They used to sell toys that were like Jack riding or using different vehicles. And so I have somewhere, one second. I know it's an audio podcast, but
it's an audio podcast, but if you want to, you can subscribe to our Patreon and see the video of all this right now.
So we got Jack on a motorcycle here, this old toy, and we were just kind of hanging out, my friend Josh and I, and just being bored. And so we're going like, here comes Hellrider Jack, and like almost like a Ghost Rider kind of thing, but no story kind of thing. And I love that name. And that character has popped up in a bunch of different failed projects that I've done over the years. Like my friend Josh and I were going to make a video game, so there's a Hellrider Jack character, and he was going to be mysterious and had a skull mask and stuff like that. And then finally, when I got around to Long John, I'm like, what about Hellrider Jackie? And try to find a way to work her into the story. But yeah, it's like it's like the ultimate inside joke for me and one other person. But that's honestly where the character came from. But once I started weaving her into the story and figuring out how she is part of the overall tale, she became inseparable from Long John itself.
So Hellrider Jackie is a goth, gender bent Jack in the Box.
Jack in the Box.
Yep.
I love it. We don't have Jack in the Box out here, so I never got the chance.
You're not missing much.
No, you are missing a lot. You need to go find a Jack in the Box, get the bacon ultimate cheeseburger, and devour that.
Hey, if I'm ever out there, that's one place I'll definitely go.
There's a Jack in the Box down the street from me that we're pretty sure is a front for some sort of money laundering.
Oh yeah, they all are.
It's so like well kept, and it's like it's always looks new, even though it's been there for 20 years. But there's never any cars outside of it. So I'm like, there's something going on, right?
It's like the car wash from Breaking Bad.
Hilarious. I just love the idea of Long John. It starts off very similar to Ace Blade in that, there's a man who wakes up, well, in Ace Blade's case, he's been shot 4 times, but you don't know what's going on with him. And I just love the idea of kind of the mystery of what happened to this guy. And I think that's a great place to start a story.
Right.
Kyrun said earlier that you are a professor, and I've learned that you teach English. How does that help or hurt you as a writer?
That's a good question. Because most people ask, like, how do they, how do you use comics in class, or how do you use your class in comics? And like, I don't, but like how it influences me as a writer, what it gets me to think about more than anything else is structure and intent. So with my previous comic, and like a lot of people's first comics, they're just kind of writing as they go. They just want to see what's cool, right? I think, Kyrun, talking to you, that's kind of how you wrote Shaman's Destiny, right? You're just like, let's just see where this goes.
Yeah.
But having plot intersect with theme, at least the theme as I see it, whatever people get out of Long John is up to them. I'm not going to tell you what to think, but like seeing how ideas fit together so that I can actually be saying what I'm trying to say from the beginning of the comic by the end, and realizing that I can have plot points that are also big character moments, and not have it, not trying to force one into the other, I have to sacrifice one for the other. And because that's because what the English I teach, I don't teach literature or anything like that. I teach, composition classes, the basic writing classes that everybody has to take. And it always the same, the mantra I say in every class is that every piece of writing, whether it's an essay, a poem, a song, a speech, comes down to you answering two questions. What do you think? And why do you think it? Tell me why. Show me how. And yeah, that's an argument. That's a thesis statement, but it's also storytelling. It's why is, your character is cool, but also why is your character cool, right? Don't just show me. Don't just show me by having cool poses and dynamic scenes. Let other people bounce off of them. Put them in situations where they can be cool or struggle, and so they can actually be cool out of that situation, right? It's kind of thinking about overthinking, honestly, structure and page design specifically. Each page for me is like a paragraph in an essay, and like, what do we have to say on this page so that we can get to the next page and have that make sense. So that's kind of how that informs it.
I love that. That's I think that right there, what you just said, took me 5 years in my writing journey to learn. And as soon as I learned it, it took my writing to another level. Now I put theme in everything that I write. If it doesn't have a purpose, then there's no point in writing it to me. Right. So I love that. That's something that you keep in mind. And I can't wait to see. I'm gonna read all your stuff, man. To be honest with you.
Thank you.
This is gonna be cool, man. I've enjoyed hearing you. And writers get a bad rap, especially in comics, because everybody thinks they can do it.
Right.
And you seem to be you've studied, and Kyrun, you're a good writer. Stop it.
No. I was just thinking, and this is way tangent wise, but yeah. I just remember I had one more book that I read this week.
Okay.
Stop it.
I did. I read Robert Kirkman's Tech Jacket, Volume 1.
Oh, Tech Jacket. Okay.
I don't know why that just popped in my head, but I was just like,
Robert Kirkman is a great writer. He's
he is. That's why I remembered that. I was like, oh yeah, great writer, Robert Kirkman. Oh yeah, Robert Kirkman, Tech Jacket. I just read that. That's another 4 or 5 issue book that I just read this week for some reason.
So you're saying while we were talking, Danny and I were talking, you were basically thinking about the toilet.
I do have to go to the bathroom, yes.
What is it with you? What is it with you and this toilet affinity you have?
It's my safe space, all right? It's my safe space. It's the only place I get freedom from everything.
Right.
Oh, you get freedom on the toilet?
Because I have locks on my toilet.
This is Dad's toilet. This is Dad's toilet. Stay away.
If you want to use it, you got to put a quarter in that thing. Sorry, I'm sorry. I just totally broke train of thought there.
Well, Danny, you brought up, so we're talking about writing, right? And like one of the things I say is like, because I'm a writer artist, or as Kyrun pointed out, I'm a comiker, because I'm like, what's one word that can describe what I do? And it's awkward to say, but like the joke is, especially during Ebon 07, because when I started Ebon 07, I actually kind of stopped drawing for 7 years, and I was not really confident as an artist, but throughout my entire life, I've been a writer. And so the joke I've always said is that I'm a writer who draws, not an artist who writes. And I do think that balance is probably still accurate. I'm probably more of a brain of a writer than an artist. But so that's why I think I think a lot about writing, and why it's the forefront of what I do in terms of overthinking, getting pages done. I really care about that structure and composition more than I care about the art in a lot of ways.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that.
I'm gonna be like you when I grow up, man. And I'm just at the end of that 7 years because I quit drawing, and I was like, I'm not a good artist. I refuse to put this stuff on a page, but now I'm starting to open back up to it. So
you can do it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
hey, if you want to start drawing stuff, send it my way. Send it Kyrun's way. We'll talk about it. We'll give you all the encouragement you need.
Kyrun's a terrible critic. This dude,
okay,
he's a great artist, and I would not be able to accept bad criticism from Kyrun.
he is hard.
Okay, wait. I am very insightful when it comes to criticizing other people's work. I don't do it to demean you or to put you down. I only try to give you constructive criticism. I will tell you what's bad, but also tell you what you did good. Now, my own stuff, I only see the flaws in everything I draw. Everything I've drawn, I'm like, I don't like that, or that. But everybody else's stuff, I will show you what you did great and what you can improve upon. And that's just how I am.
We'll test it out and see then. We'll test it out.
Send it my way. You have my email, Facebook, text message. You have every form of communication. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. You can message me every way possible at this point.
You know which window's my bedroom window? Yeah.
and now Dan finally accepted me on Facebook. So I can send stuff his way too.
I'm just here to steal all your friends, Kyrun.
Well, I only have like a couple more after Danny at this point.
There's only 4 of us. There's only 4 of us in the group.
Yeah, and 2 or 3 of those left with Big Tree Comics, so I'm a little shortchanged at this point.
Oh man,
that should be a whole interview right there. Just what happened with Big Tree Comics.
Next time we have a whole I guess cancel on us, we'll do that.
There you go. Yeah, I like that. Interview each other.
Okay.
That's it. Okay, so is it time for quick takes? Can we do that now?
Sounds good. Let me
All right. Meow, meow, meow. So, Mr. Dan Bethel, we have a segment that we do, and thank you for listening to our podcast. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to us ramble on about indie comics or self-published comics now that we're
there we go. Yeah.
What we do is a little section called Danny's Quick Takes.
All right.
And I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and Kyrun is going to play a 45-second sound clip. Okay. And you have to answer the question as quickly as possible, just straight off the top of your head. Okay.
Sounds good.
So I went through your Facebook. I love to go through people's Facebook pictures to see.
Okay.
We're gonna change this segment,
creepy, my dude.
We're gonna change this segment to Danny stalking through Facebook.
Hey, they're public pictures, okay? They're public pictures. The first thing that struck me is I saw a picture from way back when you were, I think you and a group were cosplayed as Western characters. You got together and you had the rifle and the saloon lady who looked like she worked in the saloon.
Right.
And I love the themes of the Western, as we talked about. I love Westerns. So my first question was, what is your favorite Western TV show and what is your favorite Western film?
Okay. Western film. Whoa. Intense. Western film would probably have to be, oh goodness, Unforgiven. It seems like an easy answer, but it's such a good inversion of the traditional Western, tropes and cliches, and it's awesome. Favorite Western show? The only one I can think of is Briscoe County Jr. Which I'm not upset with that answer at all.
I'll take it, yeah.
Lonesome Dove is really good. I was surprised by how good that was, but it was a miniseries. I'll say Briscoe County Jr. You know what? That show doesn't get enough representation, so
yeah. Boom. We'll go with that. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. We talked
the only Western show you could think of, huh?
Yeah, right, dude. Call me in at 7 a.m, expect me to think of all the Western shows I've seen. Yeah.
Think about me. Yeah. I have to do all this at 7 a.m. every other weekend. All right.
Good for you. Good for you.
It's 10 o'clock here, so I'm happy.
There we go.
We talked earlier. My favorite Western is The Rifleman. I watch it all the time. Just put it on in the background. If I'm not watching Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon, I probably have that on in the background,
right.
And I absolutely love it. All right. So your second question, while scrolling through your Facebook, I noticed that you have a lot of great pictures of nature.
Yeah.
So what is it to you about nature that attracts you, and what fuels you about being out in nature?
There we go. Well, there's two answers here. One is that my wife loves hiking, and so we do that. But I've grown to appreciate it. Even though it's something I wouldn't do on my own necessarily. But there's something about, especially when you get to a place where it's just wide open space and there's nobody else around. You can think about things, but also just keep walking forward and not have to worry about emails, about appointments or anything like that, and just kind of look around, be alone, sweat, and when you're done, go home and have a drink. Right? It's just it's something about the sort of refreshing about it.
You never have to worry about your Zoom crashing while you're out in nature.
No, yeah. Although Kyrun would be out walking in the middle of nowhere, like, you know what, we should record a podcast right now. Get this done.
There's no toilet around here, dang it.
Nature, hey, in your nature, everywhere's the toilet.
Everywhere's the toilet. Oh man. Okay, so your third question, and you have to answer it. You cannot say neither. You cannot say both. Okay? So I've seen a lot of pictures of animals on your timeline, cats and dogs.
Yeah.
So I think I know the answer because of what we talked about earlier, but cats or dogs, and why?
This is the hardest one so far. I was raised a cat person. They are easier to deal with, but there's no denying the adoration of a dog. I think I might have become a dog person, even though puppies are jerks.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true.
They're the worst. They're absolute worst.
My children have forced me to get 2 dogs, and we have 2 puppies.
Yeah.
And they are very stubborn. They're sisters, and they are very stubborn dogs, but I love them a lot already.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
I wonder what Kyrun's answer would be: cats or dogs?
Dogs, easily.
I know that. Yeah,
easily dogs. I hate cats. I hate cats.
Well, you're like deathly allergic to them. When you came over that one time, I had to like sanitize my house like it was a detox zone, like we were coming out of a nuclear.
You know, it sucks because growing up, one of my best friends, he had like 4 cats in his house. Mm-hmm. So every time I'd go to his house, I had to take like a bunch of allergy medicine before, during, and after I left his house, because I was like just allergic to everything.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know you could be this. I mean, it makes sense, but I didn't know that you could be allergic to one and not the other. Yeah, that it makes sense thinking about it, but I never thought about it.
I'm allergic to fish, but not other forms of sea life like shellfish and octopus. I can eat all that, but fish I'm definitely allergic to also.
Yeah, me too. Okay, question 4. Okay. There is only one answer. There's only one correct answer to this question.
God.
Okay. And everybody that I've talked to, besides a couple of people, have gotten it wrong.
Yeah.
So
I think I know the question already.
I might too. Yeah.
What is the best Batman film?
Oh.
Question I thought.
No, me
animated.
I was ready to say the answer was Ace Blade, but
no.
The best Batman film?
Yes.
Oh man, I'm gonna say the wrong one. Personally, I can't go wrong with Batman '89, the Michael Keaton one. Okay. That was my age group, and that was like where that was my Batman. I could say Dark Knight, I could say Batman Begins, I could say stuff like that, but no, when it comes down to it, if you present all those with me and say you have to watch one right now, Batman '89.
Okay.
Is that the wrong answer?
That is the wrong answer.
What is it?
The correct answer is Mask of the Phantasm.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yes,
that's a good one.
Yes, you know what? You're right. That is the best Batman movie.
Most of those Batman films are good for one reason or another. So there's not technically a wrong answer.
No, that movie's perfect. Like literally.
Yes, it's a perfect film, and I love it.
Except for the George Clooney Batman, right? We're not counting that at all, right?
Oh, I love Bat Nipples too. Bat Nipples are great.
So you like cyberstalking and you like bat nipples. Okay, we're learning a lot about you today.
Yeah. That's my jam. So
before his bat nipples while he cyberstalks.
I got to keep them separate. Keep them separate. That's
too exciting.
Great. So before I ask you this last question, I saw you have pictures holding a guitar, but do you play guitar?
Oh, can I answer that?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
You do play. Okay.
Yeah.
So music or comics, and why?
Comics, even though it's harder, I don't like doing that as much as I like making music. I'm better at comics than I am at making music. It's a hard fact. So, there's whatever you're good at, you always think you're it's always hard, and so you always like doing the other thing better. But I'd have to choose comics because I think gets more of me out into the world than any music I make. So comics. Final answer.
I love it. I'm a percussionist myself. I play set drums, nice. And I love it. But at the same time, I feel the same way that you do. Comics helps me develop more, and I have to do more research. Like music just comes more naturally to me.
Yeah.
I can pick up an instrument and learn it, but I have to actually research for comics, and it helps me develop as a father and as a human being more. So,
right. Yeah. I think same way, like music is more just about it's like an immediate reaction, just getting it out. Whereas comics, there's something that about growth. Not that I can't grow through making music, I can't learn stuff, but the effort that goes into making comics is in a sense probably, and it's a different kind of reward, but I think one better for me in the long run. Sure, I totally see that.
I love it. Thank you. That was our.
Wait. I got one quick take. Here
we go.
And I've been saving this one.
I know what this is about. Yeah.
Oh no. So one of the things that you've also done, you do a lot of sketches on your Sketch Friday. And one of the sketches you did, I think it was last year, it might have been 2019. But you did a sketch of two amazing leaders, Leonardo and Cyclops.
Yeah.
We had the two of them side by side.
Yeah.
If you had to choose one to lead your team, which would it be and why?
Oh man.
Ooh.
Because they're both great leaders, Leonardo and Cyclops.
Leonardo sucks, but okay.
Wow. I would choose Cyclops. He has more experience. He has probably better skills, having not living. He doesn't have to live in a sewer. And he has more training, honestly. I think he's better at thinking on his feet and dealing with a bigger team. But honestly, if we're going to choose the best leader,
no, don't be adding the extra thing in here. It was Cyclops or
Cyclops.
Okay. Cyclops. Who would you add if you could?
Storm. She's the best leader of the X-Men.
That's the answer.
Yeah.
Respect. I respect that.
She is the best X-Man, honestly, just all around. Boom. But Leonardo's the best turtle. That's a fact.
I think Storm deserved her own film series. Like, I think.
Yeah.
Can we bring back Halle Berry?
Huh?
Oh
no.
Actually, here's a collab I did with someone that's on the stream right now. Remember this, Kyrun?
Yeah, I remember that.
Boom.
I inked that, baby.
You did. So so this is for you, Danny. Your favorite two characters coming right at
you. Cyclops is. I think both Leonardo and Cyclops. I don't think they've been done well on screen and on TV, is what it is. I think in the comics they shine greatly in the comics.
Yeah.
But I think film and TV have done those two characters specifically wrong as leaders. I think but the comical versions of both of them are great.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Yes.
You guys did a poll on who the best turtle was, right? And who ended up being the bottom of the list?
Michelangelo.
That makes sense. Yeah.
When they were filming the first X-Men movie back in the 90s, I wanted Al Chandler to play Cyclops.
Oh, sure.
He's from early edition, and he did Friday Night Lights.
Right.
Okay. I know what you're talking about.
I thought he would have been a great Cyclops.
Yeah.
He had that look of a stern leader.
Right. Yeah, he just gets cast to play dad in every movie.
I mean, Cyclops has a little bit of a dad in him.
Oh, totally.
He wants to take care of everybody.
Right.
So I don't know.
We can see Cyclops before they board in the X-Jet. He's like, Rogue, did you bring a jacket?
Yeah.
Logan, are you going to wear those shoes? Those shoes? All right. Yeah.
It's
Don't
cold
make me
out
turn
there.
this plane around. Yeah,
All right.
totally. Dad energy coming off of Cyclops.
All right, that was good. That was a good quick takes. That was good quick
Thank
takes.
you.
All right, so let's get back into something that we haven't addressed actually is your animation background.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And that, if you look at your style, like I mentioned earlier, your animation or your style has a lot of animation look to it.
Right.
You could definitely say it could translate directly to screen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, I'd love for it to be like a live action series or something in the future. But what made you get into animation initially?
I hate drawing backgrounds.
Okay.
And so
okay, I need to get an animation then because I hate drawing background.
Right. And so because of that, I like in art classes and stuff, I never really took to doing still lives or like scene drawings. I always like drawing figures and specifically figures doing motion, action, movement. I liked the problem solving of like what does a torso look from this angle? What happens when you twist a torso this way and the hips the other way, and figuring out that sort of spatial realization. And then I learned that that's what animation is. That's all you do. That's all you do. And so I went to a community college after high school, and they had an animation program. And so I took some of those classes and got an internship with a video game company that was starting up at the time and eventually never released anything. So good for them. But it was actually then when I realized that animation wasn't I was too slow. Big shock. I'm slow with everything when it comes to making art. But they moved me off of animation to character design and storyboards, which I'm like, this fits. And it was a natural jump from storyboards to making comics. So yeah, my animation background isn't in necessarily animation proper. I'm actually drawing cells or frames, but a lot of the theory behind animation definitely translates to the choices I make on the page.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I remember on it was a couple months ago, you actually released an animation that you did of Long John.
Yeah.
Do you plan on doing more things like that to get more views and bring? Because animation definitely is something that attracts people as they're scrolling through Instagram or Facebook. That movement stops people, whereas a still photo, unless that still photo is very vibrant and very eye-catching, a lot of times people just keep scrolling over that. So do you think you're going to bring in more animation to what you're doing to attract an audience?
Probably not. Animation's hard. There's a reason why I didn't keep pursuing it. But I did that just to see if I still had any of those skills. And it was fun. And if I do anything, I might just keep adding on to that thing. But actually sitting down and trying to produce a finished animation, even if it's short, I don't know if I have the attention span to do that. It'd be too hard, and I should be making comics anyway. But it'd be cool to work with an actual animator and see what they could do. But that's every comic creator's dream, right? It's like, it'd be cool to see this made into an animation, even if it's short. But I mean, you actually did that, Kyrun, with that cool sort of overview of all the characters of your universe.
I did, and it was cool. Just seeing the movement and seeing everything that I envisioned now sort of coming to life was amazing. It costs a lot, but it did drive me to really want to pursue something of that nature. I mean, I grew up in the 80s and 90s where Saturday mornings were reserved for cartoons and cartoons only. Get your bowl of cereal, sit in front of the TV for 3-4 hours straight, and then once you're done that, go play with your friends. And it sparked something that I want to someday be able to just say, hey, let's turn Netflix on and watch my cartoon. Let's turn on YouTube and watch the newest episode that I dropped there. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure a lot of us as comic book creators or comicers, we all want something of that nature, either animation, a live action, or a movie or some sort. I know there are people out there that say, no, I'm just strictly comic books and comics only, but I'm like, that's BS.
Right.
We want to see what our dreams really are. Comics are great, but they're not movement. And we want to see those things come to life because these are what we've been envisioning for years. And we want to be able to see that at least once.
Yeah. I think it ties to also the internal editor, right? Like we were talking about, what ends up on the page is like, it's always better in our heads. Mm-hmm. And so honestly, if someone else does the work and makes it happen, it'd be better than if we tried to do it on our own. So like, I'd love to see it maybe animated or whatever, but like, I don't want to do it. That's, but someone with actual interest and skill in doing that would be better. But yeah, just seeing also, it come alive, because that's how we see, I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea of like, I see the movie in my head and I write it down and draw it. I don't think that way, but there is more, when I'm composing a panel or a page, you do only have to choose one moment, right? Out of the infinite variety of poses and shots you can put into a panel. And like those other moments do exist in my head and in every artist's head, every writer's head. And it'd be cool to kind of see all of those options available as it's actually people moving on screen.
What makes you continue to make comics then? Because
like I said,
for me, it's to, I don't want to say create an empire, but I want my characters to be out there and to be known. Is that a goal for you, or is that something that you're just not caring about as far as comics? Because you're a full-time teacher, so this is your side hustle.
Right. I make comics because, and probably I make comics for the same reasons I teach. It's that, and we were talking about this, like, I'm an introvert. I like being by myself, but I also want to feel like I'm contributing to the world around me. And I'm not as interested. And there's plenty of other people doing this. I'm not interested in creating like my own publishing imprint or universe of characters. I'm just telling these small stories with the hope that at least one person goes like, oh, this is something that I'm into. This is something that I connect with. This idea is something that is put into a form that I can resonate with and use as an example to show other people of how I feel or how I think. Especially as a kid who grew up in kind of, especially where I grew up on the Central Coast of California, which is kind of, not super diverse, not very, it's I grew up in a place called San Luis Obispo, middle point between San Francisco and LA. And basically it's where all the people with money moved out of San Francisco and LA. They moved to San Luis. And it was as a kid in that kind of environment where we didn't go, it was a family that didn't go to church. I was an only child from a divorced home where everybody else was the opposite. I felt like really separate from a lot of that community. And now, even though I'm far away from that, I'm always still trying to connect and go like, yeah, I'm weird, but like we share a lot.
Yeah.
And, like I said, teaching does that obviously very directly, but comics, being a personal creative expression, was probably ultimately can be more rewarding if you find someone that just connects to you through this thing that you made. So that's why I do it.
I think what a lot of what you just said is very important. I think every creative medium can be boiled down to three things, especially like comics. Community, what you talked about, communication, because we all want to speak to other people, and then connections. Those we want to feel connected to other people. Right. And comics are a niche way of doing that. But I think I grew up in North Carolina. You guys are from Sacramento. Even though we're on opposite parts of the country, we connect through these stories.
Right.
And I just love that comics are able to do that. Movies do it. People who love the same movies, they experience that. But comics does it for people who grew up like us, and I love that.
Yeah. And to specifically answer your question, Karen, why make comics specifically? Why not do prose? Why not do animation? Why not do music? I just think I've learned that comicking is just the skill I have most developed to tell those types of stories rather than doing something else. And if I did something else, it'd feel like starting from scratch, right? And, yeah.
And one of the Danny has a YouTube channel where he actually posts a lot of the sketches that he does. One of the things that he actually posted a couple years ago was a video from him at APE, which is the Alternative Press Expo.
Yeah.
But this was a couple years ago where they moved from San Francisco to San Jose.
Right.
One of the things I thought was really cool was during that whole video you did, you talked about how this new venue was set up in this tent in San Jose, and it was really cool. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I was watching the video. And then I realized I've been at that tent before. And I was like, when have I been at that tent? And then it hit me. It was a few years before that. My wife and I went down to San Jose for a comic convention. And it was at that tent. Yeah. And the reason why we went down there is because Jim Lee was there.
Ah.
And that's where I met Jim Lee.
Nice.
And that's where I had him sign my Xman #1 and my Wildcats #1.
Nice.
But it was a cool experience because I didn't bring my portfolios. Huh?
Do you still have those?
Hell yeah. I have those. I have Spawn #1 and Spider #1 signed by McFarlane. I have Youngblood and X-Force signed by Rob Liefeld.
I have the Mick Foley book.
I have Mick Foley signed, yeah. I have Infinity Gauntlet series signed by Ron Lim. I have a bunch of stuff signed by people.
You said that wrong. Infinity Gauntlet signed by my best friend Ron Lim, right?
My best friend Ron Lim.
There we go.
Yes.
There you go. That's it.
But you know, I thought it was really cool that you actually went to that location. It just brought back memories.
Yeah, nice.
You know, Danny, you have to go.
Yeah, I got to get out of here. I wish I could stay longer and talk. This has been a great conversation.
It has been. Yeah.
I got to get out of here though. I appreciate y'all, Dan, for hosting the show now, taking over for Kyrun, and you know, I'm definitely gonna read your books. I did order them.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
This show is starting to become like, hey, let's bring somebody on, and then I can buy all their stuff. And I like that.
I sent you the webcomic league. You didn't have to buy it, so you're just compelled now to buy it.
No, he does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I could have read it all online, but you know, I like physical stuff. So man, it was so nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Man.
Are y'all gonna stay on? Y'all gonna stay on a little longer?
I think so. Yeah. I got nothing else to do.
All right, I'm out of here. I'll see you next week.
All right, man. Thanks, next week. We're recording next week.
The week after next. Yeah, right. All right.
All right. Later, man. So yeah, going back to Jim Lee, I did bring my portfolio. The guy ahead of me was confident enough to bring his portfolio.
Yeah.
And he showed it to Jim, and Jim was like, "It's not bad." And he's like, "But this is what I would do." And he got a black marker, a black like Sharpie marker. And he started drawing on this guy's portfolio page. Ooh. Like directly on the page. And he said, I would do this angle. You have a helicopter here. I would draw this helicopter like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, flabbergasted at that point. I was like, as a creator, I'm showing my portfolio. I'd be pissed off if somebody drew on that. But at the same time, this is Jim Lee.
All of a sudden, that page became valuable.
Yeah. So I'm like, do you get mad at that? Or
I don't know.
Do you get happy that you have a Jim Lee drawing? I mean, it's a sketch of a helicopter and some lines, but
right. I would end up by going like, hey, could you sign this, Jim?
Oh, he did. He signed it.
Oh, good.
He signed it, but I was like, huh, okay.
That's awesome. Yeah, that'd be weird, man. But I mean, if it's good advice, it's good advice. And hopefully he went and made assuming it's a he, went and made a better page, right? That person was Brett Booth.
So the reason I brought all that up, because have you ever taken your work and shown it to editors or anybody to have it critiqued? Someone that's actually in the business and not just me.
No, I haven't. Because of crippling self-doubt.
I know all about that.
Yes. And so luckily, as every artist is, I beat myself up pretty badly. But no, I haven't. And I think mostly it comes down to, at this point, I don't necessarily do it. Although if I did try to submit something to a publisher, I'd have to submit to the notes of an editor, which is probably fine. They're trying to make a book get published and conform to whatever kind of output that publisher wants to make. But I don't want to go to an artist just for, art critique, because going back to what we're talking about here or what you mentioned at the beginning of being called a comiker, like I'm not separating art from writing. It's all one thing. And so I'm not going to go to an artist necessarily and say, hey, fix my art, because what if that changes, the kind of story I'm trying to tell? And maybe that's me making excuses. I don't know, probably, but I haven't done it. And I think being a self-publisher, I will let the audience and market decide whether I'm doing something right or well or not, right?
Okay.
Plus, I think a lot of just art, and especially when it comes to comic art, comes mostly from just doing it as often as possible, and you get better over time.
Yeah, you definitely get that. I mean, the more you're doing it, anything, the more you do it, the better you're gonna be. But especially with art and writing, if you're not doing it every day, at least every week, you're not gonna grow.
Right.
And that's good advice, man. Well,
yeah.
Yes, then let me ask, since it's just you and I now, because Danny has other things he had to go do. When the heck is Geck Force coming out?
Good question, man. The publisher I've been working with is dropping the ball all the time. Just too busy working on more successful comics, like I don't know what's called Zob.
Fucking ass, dude.
No, I mean, I would like to actually. Okay, we can get this on record. What I'd like to do, because I wrote like an outline for like 4 issues, 100 years ago.
Damn,
right?
dude, 4 issues.
Yeah, I sent that to you. Remember?
Okay, you're right.
And
I only remember it being like an issue or 2.
I think it was 3 or 4, one of the 2.
Okay.
But I think what I do, just so we can say that there exists something called Geck Force, is to do like a mini comic, like just try to do like 12 pages, right? And then we can say it exists and put that out, maybe put some sketches in the back, nice little collab kind of thing. I don't know.
I guess for anybody that's actually listening to this, if you don't know what Geck Force is, which nobody knows outside of myself and Chris Cinder, Geck Force was a collaboration that we did at the first event. Was that the first free comic book day we did? Okay. The first free comic book day, Dan and I met each other. We were sitting side by side and we were bored, and we just said, let's just create a random character right here at the event. And I don't know how it turned into gecko superpowered individuals, but we said we're all going to make a gecko related superhero.
Right.
And that ended up becoming Geck Force, a team not unlike Ninja Turtles, where they're anamorphic geckos who go around saving the world. And that has been on the back burner between the two of us, Dan and I, for 6 years now. I created G-Shot.
Yep.
Dan
I was Techo.
That's right.
Techo, something. Yeah.
Techo the gecko, you called him. And it was cool. And we had Dan create outline. We have other characters. But this was going to be an all ages book, if I'm not mistaken, right? We weren't going to go too hard.
I don't even know if we discussed it that far. The outline,
I think in my mind it was all ages because it's a gecko.
The outline I sent was basically me trying to create a image launch title.
Yes.
Right. Trying to fit in with that crowd.
Although Image doesn't do really superhero stuff anymore anyway, so.
Oh, that's it was my inspiration, more than anything else.
All right.
So that's what I've been thinking about when it comes to Geck Force. I'd like to do like maybe a mini comic, just so we can finally say
we did it.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, did we go over what books you read this week?
No.
Okay. Right.
I didn't read any on the toilet though, so I don't know if it counts.
Well, what book did you read today or this week?
Today.
At 6 o'clock in the morning, what did you read?
So the only books I've been reading, I've been reading a book about it's
a book without images drawn by somebody,
but it's a book about comics. So it's a book called I think it's called Akira Reimagining the Medium or something like that. It's put up by a publisher called Third Editions out of France, and so it's translated criticism. It's It's a French book doing a critical analysis of the manga Akira by Otomo, right? And
it's really classic. Don't touch it.
No. It's just doing examining themes and examining sort of the history of it and where it came from. It's just academic criticism.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, you wrote criticism.
It's not a review. But other than that, actually, the only other book I've been reading this week, I dug out of my long boxes the issues 10 through 13 of volume 1 of Wildcats. Because those comics are where Jim Lee and Chris Claremont hooked up again. Yes. And introduced the Claremont character, the Huntsman, I think his name. I read 2-3 issues of it. I don't know if I understand what's going on, but I don't know if it ever made sense, right?
It's 90s. It's 90s work. It doesn't really make sense as long as it had a lot of action, explosions, a lot of gear.
Yeah,
that's all it really needed for 90s work.
And it's been fun though. It's been basically I dug it out to see kind of modern, I want to say more modern Chris Claremont, even though it's almost 30 years ago. But
have you done anything recently?
He's done one-shots for Marvel.
Yeah, he did a Xman Legends story, didn't he? Or am I thinking about Fabian?
That was Nicieza, yeah. And now it's the Simonsons. And he did a New Mutants one-shot a couple of years ago at this point. That was actually pretty good. But I'm like, some of it. Oh, and he also did the X-Men God Loves Man Kills like director's cut, where there are some new pages put onto the beginning and end of it.
I have that one actually with Brent Anderson did their work on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did not like that because the colors they got did not do well with his artwork.
And Anderson's style has changed over the years, and Claremont's style has changed over the years. I didn't really like his writing on it, and so I'm like, has he always been sort of where was he in the mid 90s? And so I dug out those books, and they're fine. It reads like a modern comic at the time. But yeah, and it's just cool revisiting that old art, and Jim Lee was on fire back then.
Yeah.
So
there isn't too many times where Jim Lee isn't on fire, honestly. Right. There been
I don't know. Point to all his DC stuff.
I mean, there's Divine Right was a miss.
But that was more story than art, what you're telling me.
Art was okay. It was definitely Jim Lee, but I just feel like he was. I don't think he really knew what he wanted to do with that book.
The only other thing I've been reading is I've done a reread through of Sweet Tooth because of the recent Netflix series, and so I just started the last volume of that. So I'm excited to wrap that up.
I still have to get through episode 2 of that. I still have not come back to it, and I really should. I've been on. I don't know. I've been trying to clear out my DVR stuff because it got to almost 100% full of recordings. So I was like, okay, I better start watching some of this crap. So now I'm going back and watching all those DC shows that are on the CW.
There we go.
And I'm like, they did that to that character. Wow, they did that to Ruby Rose, huh? Okay, that's what they did. All right.
Yeah, that's off topic, but yeah, they got a new actress to play the same character, right?
No, they got a new actress to play.
Well, there's the new actress to play the main character.
Yeah, but it's a different character.
Right.
It's just
right.
But they did this character wrong because at least I haven't watched the entire season yet. I'm like halfway through.
Okay.
But the entire portion I've been watching, they're still referencing the Ruby Rose Batwoman.
Right.
Like they're like, we still have to go find Kate. We have to search Kate. We have to find Kate. I'm like, wow, that's so much disrespect to this woman that you just brought on. That the entire season is about still finding the actress she just replaced.
Right. I think I read something that actually bring Kate back, but it's a different actress.
Well, thank you for spoiling that for me. Damn it.
Well, I just want to make clear that I knew they brought in a new character. I'm not that ignorant, even though I don't watch the show.
I haven't gotten to that part yet. So thanks.
Sorry, no problem.
All right.
The show likes spoilers. I think this show asks specifically creators for spoilers. So
about their work, not what I'm watching. All right.
Sorry.
I think that might be a good time for us to end the episode at that point.
Now that I hurt feelings and spoiled TV.
Spoiling my half-ass DC TV show. Although I do enjoy Lois and Clark, or Superman and Lois, whatever
Heard good things about it.
Yeah,
I'd like to leave a scorched earth behind me whenever I come into contact. So there we go. Just bridges burned.
Thank you. That fun stuff. I will never contact you again after this.
So finally. No.
All right. Well, since this is it, where can we find your work at?
You can find me at longjohncomic.com. And you can find me on social media. I think the most active social media is on Instagram. Find me at Dan Bethel Comics. And you can find, there's a Long John page, facebook.com/longjohncomic. But all those links are at the website, longjohncomic.com.
Nice. And when can we anticipate the newest book coming out?
Probably next summer. So I'm about halfway through drawing issue 5 or chapter 5, and plan to have that drawn by the end of the summer. And then once school starts up, I'll be spending those months coloring and lettering and getting books printed, all that fun stuff.
Well, I will be getting, was that volume 5, book 5? I will be getting it. I have my money saved. It's my allowance that my wife gives me. I guess I should do the stuff for Danny. So Danny, where can we find your work? Well, you can find me at fourthwallpros.com. You can find me on TikTok or Twitter, Instagram, the Ace Blade, at the Ace Blade at all accounts. But what about you, Kyrun? Where can you find your stuff? Okay, well, you can find my comics at tauruscomics.com. I'm on Twitter and Instagram also at Taurus Comics. I am on TikTok. Unlike Danny, I don't have 60,000 followers on TikTok.
Wow.
But I do love my 4,000 followers I do have. You can find me at Kyrun49, Kyrun49. Again, you can, if you haven't already, please go to our website, fourtailspodcast.com. That's the number 4, TALES, podcast.com, and catch up on all our past episodes. We do thank everybody who has gone on to Apple, iTunes, and Spotify, and all the podcasting platforms for all your reviews. We have noticed uptake in those reviews. So, I mean, if you're a bad review, that's fine. I mean, we'll try to make it better for you, but thank you for anybody that's put down the 5 stars. Those reviews and ratings definitely help, and they mean a lot for us as podcasters to getting our work out to everybody in the world. And as my friend here, Dan, says on his podcast, through the magic of algorithms. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess I should say also, you can find my podcast at forallintents.net. It's called A Podcast for All Intents and Purposes.
Nobody said you can plug your podcast on my podcast. What is going on here?
Unsubscribe from this podcast. Subscribe to my podcast.
No, please do. And I know we didn't get a chance to really talk about your podcast, especially Con Artists, which you and I both host. But do listen to his podcast if you're into the geeky culture things on a critical view of the geeky culture. Definitely listen to Dan and Andrew. They have a great podcast I listen to every week. But come back next week, or next week, I did what Danny did. Come back 2 weeks from now, where we're going to have Specs Thompson, writer of Legacy for the View. We'll talk about his book. But until then, we want to thank you for listening to this podcast. Sayonara, goodbye, and please take care of yourselves.